Welcome, I'm DPadGamer, and this video is a bit longer than I originally anticipated.
I don't think you know what you're doing! You need
to keep your videos quick and snappy.
That's
way too long.
Oh, alright. I got a lot of great glitches in store, so stay tuned to the end for stuff like this. Should be fun. Now let's get right into it. Here are a bunch of glitches in Banjo-Tooie. Our first glitch can be done just after exiting Banjo's house at the beginning of the game. After moving far enough forward towards Spiral Mountain, there'll be a cutscene which introduces Klungo. That can be avoided by coming up to this wall and carefully performing a flap flip with a beak buster at max height. If done correctly, you'll be able to reach the raised ledge and move around the cutscene trigger. Since you avoided the cutscene, Klungo is just hanging out. It's nice to see him when he's not tossing potions at me. Jumping into Mayhem Temple, the Beak Buster, or just Ground Pound for simplicity's sake, can be used to collect the Pillar Jiggy early. Usually, you'd need the Bill Drill to break this boulder, then from underneath, shake the pillars to bounce the Jiggy to the ground floor. Instead, you can just Talon Trot, Jump, Flutter, and Ground Pound to just barely reach the next pillar up. It's a pretty small window to nail the Ground Pound, but doing this multiple times will net you the Jiggy early. Over on top of the pyramid in Jade Snake Grove is, well, the Jade Snake named Slumber. The Jiggy he protects is supposed to be collected by very slowly tiptoeing across the noisy sticks. Instead, using the same technique as with the pillars, you can actually snag the Jiggy much quicker. Also, the Ground Pound is great for avoiding fall damage, if used correctly. Near a ledge like this one, which would definitely result in lethal fall damage, you can actually Ground Pound then fall off. Look at that, perfectly safe, but not really. Moving on to Glitter Gulch Mine, the Ground Pound can be used to collect the Generator Cavern Jiggy early. Just at the entrance, backflip and Ground Pound to reach the ladder that's supposed to be out of reach. Turns out it's simple as that. On to something that doesn't require a Ground Pound. Use the magic of Humbawumba to transform into a detonator. This handy form allows you to do the following two things. Oddly enough, the detonator can actually levitate. This can be done almost anywhere in the level where you're floating in water against a wall, like here. Get right up against the wall while swimming, press A, then B immediately after. This can be quite handy for doing things out of order, but I'll leave that up to you to experience. Back in Humbawumba's tent, there's something neat that we can do, but it requires explosive eggs. Stand in front of the pool that's ready to transform Banjo, and shoot an egg at the ground in front of you. This will damage the duo, knocking them back into the pool. Now when you get out, if you jump and press C up to activate first person mode, it'll work, no matter what form you're in. Now you're in a true FPS mode. The controls are really wonky, but you can actually move and shoot at the same time, which for this game is pretty crazy. This will be used later for a much grander glitch, but first, here's something neat. That is double Clockwork Kazooies. First perform the glitch, activate FPS mode, and slide back into the pool. Now when you get out, you can enter FPS mode with Banjo. Press C down to clear the reticle, then hold Z and press C down to drop an egg behind, and smash Z at the same time to shoot one out the front. If done properly, this will allow you to control two different Clockwork Kazooies at the same time. The camera will focus on whichever Clock Kazooie was spawned last, but the controls will affect both. It's always nice to see a family reunion, until the time runs out and the game crashes. Here's something you might find useful. Many collectibles throughout the game are stuck behind a wall or are trapped inside of a boulder. These can actually be collected using the egg shooting plus a beak barge. Shoot an egg out the front, then spam B to beak barge immediately after. The moves should combine to extend Banjo's hitbox just enough to collect the thing, like this unseen jinjo. It's one of those tricks that requires no extra setup, but can be real handy even in a casual playthrough. Jiggy Wiggy's challenge can be used to prevent Banjo's self-inflicted demise. With one energy left, drop an explosive egg nearby and let it hit you. Before the game fully fades out, press B to activate the challenge.
And there is only one thing we say to death.
Nah, I don't really feel like it.
Witchy World, aka Gruntilda's very own theme park, is home to a pretty great wrong warp glitch, but that'll be addressed later in the video. First, let me show you how to fly out of bounds using Solo Kazooie. Take Kazooie over to Wild West Zone, backflip onto this platform, then glide in this direction. You'll want to hug the terrain as you follow it around to this corner. Continue holding Z to glide, then press A repeatedly. This will maintain the glide, but also, Kazooie will try flapping her wings to maintain height. Since this corner is angled like so, those flaps actually push you up. Once you've reached the top of the blue wall, you can actually jump off and glide around the outside of the level. If you have somewhere you need to reach but don't feel like entering the correct way, this might help. Our journey takes us to Jolly Roger's Lagoon, specifically in the inn run by Jolly himself. There's something odd we can do using the working jukebox. Reduce your energy to 1 using the fire, then stand in front of the jukebox. Drop a clockwork egg out your rear, then press and hold B. This will explode the clockwork Kazooie as well as activate the jukebox. This essentially makes Banjo undead. The music has stopped, you can no longer interact with fire, notes, or even the exit. It's sort of like that one movie that no one knows about.
Is this a game? You think this is funny?
Can anybody hear me?
Let's head into the underground cavern, which can be found just below Jelly's Inn. Jump into the water and head over to this spot. Dive down while hugging the corner and oh look, Banjo fell out of the water. Now that you've fallen down, you're free to gaze up at the fish. There's not much you can do with this, but leaving through the tunnel results in a nice little transition. Kazooie on her own can also go underwater, though the method is a bit different. Snag the running shoes and run out onto the water. Hold Z, then press and hold A. This will make Kazooie do her own special backflip, but for as long as you hold the A button, she'll continue falling, even through the water. When she finally touches solid ground, physics will start working again and Kazooie will float back to the surface. This can actually be useful in the upper fire side of Hailfire Peaks. If your angle is just right, you can actually fall directly onto the fish, collecting it before the boiling water spits you back out. You can also collect the Jinjo early, since he is in the same pool, but it requires much more precise movement. I couldn't quite get it to work myself, but I know it's possible. And one of the deepest parts of the lagoon is Davy Jones' actual locker. Instead of getting in and going to the boss like normal, it's actually possible to reach the boss by just swimming against this locker. Neat. Here in Pterodactyl Land, use Mumbo to enlarge the wigwam, then transform into a fearsome T-Rex. This king of dinosaurs will be used to press a button, then immediately change back. You are on the clock, literally, so rush over to the inside of the mountain. With the timer almost up, use the Talon Torpedo and then send Kazooie back as the timer reaches 0. If timed properly, you'll see that Kazooie has become a boomerang? Whatever you want to call this, she's stuck, and the duo have become isolated. As such, things are weird. Banjo's on his own, and he can only use the pack attack mid-air, and that's about it. Head out and over here. Position yourself where the waves going up and down will push the Banjo onto land, then back to floating, and repeat. Press C up while you're floating, and then when you get pushed onto land, he protect, he attack, but most importantly, he can snap his own back. I have no words for this, it's magical. Just enjoy this little montage of Bird Banjo. Clockwork eggs are one of the most useful things for messing with this game. See for yourself. If you find that there's a door in your way, try shooting a clockwork egg through the crack between the door and the wall. It requires nearly pixel perfect accuracy depending on where you're using it, but with the right aim, you can get a clock Kazooie through to collect whatever you want. This is actually really handy in grounded industries where a well-placed egg can access the switch inside early, which allows you to get into the factory way before you're actually supposed to. It's also handy for getting a Jiggy early over in Cloud Cuckoo Land. You can also utilize the Clockwork Egg's incredibly tiny hitbox, along with some explosive eggs to perform a Clockwork Warp. That, to put it simply, is where you plop an explosive egg behind you, and then toss a Clockwork Egg out the front like here. Have the Clock Kazooie enter the loading zone, then right after, have Banjo take damage. This will cause Banjo and Kazooie to end up on the other side of the loading zone instead of Clockwork Kazooie. This allows you to actually bypass barriers like a partially dressed caveman. It's also useful over in Cloud Cuckoo Land, where 2 Clockwork Warps can be used to reach the Jiggy and the oversized cheese wedge. In the Oogle Boogle Cave, here's a pointless way to get out of bounds. Head over here and grab onto the Witchy World sign. Pull yourself up and you'll be standing outside of the tunnel. Also, any eggs you shoot will actually go through the walls until they reach inbounds again, so if you could make use of this, all the better. As it stands, it just looks interesting. I think the duo together is great, but I quite enjoy playing as Banjo by himself. His Taxi Pack ability allows him to carry things like a living dinosaur that are way too big for it. That's pretty neat, but what's more interesting is some of the weirdness that you can trigger by unloading your cargo in a certain place. If you slide off a ledge, like here, and unload your passenger, Banjo will briefly defy the laws of physics. Like, he'll float, sort of. That's cool and all, but I wish Banjo could actually fly using his backpack. Good thing there is a glitch for that. It can be done in most levels, but here is a good spot for some sack levitation. Using Banjo's sack ability, hop on the water, then carefully move forward onto a slope where the water and ground meet. Give it a couple attempts and you'll achieve greatness. brings a glitchy tear to my eye. It's nice to see our Baron Blue is finally achieving greatness, but it doesn't end there. It's actually possible to perform stack levitation using any of the toxic waste barrels floating outside Grundy Industries. Hopping onto the edge of a barrel, where it meets the water, will result in Banjo levitating up, but only up. Unlike when you use a proper slope as seen before, if you move it'll result in Banjo falling. Still, this is a great way to reach the roof early. Also, if you use the stack levitation to reach this door, you can actually use Banjo's taxi ability to snag the jinjo through the wall. Much like the Egg Blast plus Beak Barge earlier, Banjo's taxi pack extends his hitbox far enough to collect things through the wall. On the inside, here's a way to open up the elevator doors early, but this time it's not actually using a clockwork egg. Groundbreaking, I know, and by that I mean you can actually break Kazooie's face on the ground by using the Brigo Bash through the wall like so. It'll actually hit the switch to open the door from the wrong side, opening up shortcuts like real quick. Mirrors are weird, especially in video games. If you want a functioning mirror in an N64 game like this, it requires a bit of visual trickery. In this room, what you're looking at isn't a mirror, but rather a window into a duplicate of this room, which includes a copy of Banjo and Kazooie. Just how Banjo-Kazooie stretches forward through the wall, their duplicates will do the same, extending into this room. The waste disposal plant in Grundy Industries is ripe for the glitchy pickings. You can actually swim in a toxic pool using the Talon Torpedo, but that's so useless I won't even show it to you because I don't have footage. Instead, let's use Solo Banjo to collect both of these jiggies. Hop onto the toxic waste like so, and use sack jumps to keep out of the water. You don't want to get sent back to the start. Once you reach the other side, Banjo's taxi pack can collect this jiggy, then shack pack and walk underwater. Move against the grate and unpack, and Banjo should collect the jiggy as he's tossed out of the pool. Here in the same room, grab the duo and walk against this wall. Move against it as you slowly slide left, and Banjo should just go right through the loading zone, right into Hailfire Peaks early. Much like the Davy Jones locker sort of clip earlier, the loading zone seems to be way too close to that corner. That works for us though. Over on the icy side of Hailfire Peaks, here's an odd way to collect the Ice Train Station Jiggy without ever using the train. Position yourself just inside the entrance to Boggy's Igloo and aim here. You'll want to do this before taking down Chilly Willy because you need him to be shooting snowballs at you. During the shaking from the attack, shoot the clockwork egg through the gap and it should end up down in the train station. There you go, free jiggy. The clockwork egg can also be handy for messing up Banjo's model. This can be done anywhere where there's a slope with a loading zone nearby, but we'll do it here. Jump over here and toss a clockwork egg out so that it lands on the platform while Banjo and Kazooie slide off. Move through the door and to the other side, then come back. After abandoning the clockwork Kazooie, you'll find that Banjo is now stuck with his model tilted. This will persist as long as you don't go through a loading zone, walk, or use Talon Trot. Again, enjoy this little montage. Okay, I literally can't not point this out. When Banjo uses his Shack Pack ability, everything's fine. However, when he's tilted, we can actually see inside the pack. And just look at this.
Select vector A6. Zoom in. Enhance. 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 Enhance.
Up in Cloud Cuckoo Land, here is a silly way to beat Mr. Fit's high jump. Just toss a clockwork egg up against one of the poles, then it can fall right over, completing the challenge, simple as that. That's neat, but here is a way to use the high jump to store a cutscene, kinda. Talk to Mr. Fit so that he's ready to witness your jumping powers, then go find a flight pad, like this one inside of George the Ice Cube. Fly back to the high jump and carefully land on one of the poles. All in one motion, roll down, passing over the bar, then fluttering away down to grip onto the edge. If done correctly, there'll be a celebration noise but no cutscene. Slide all away from Mr. Fit, only pulling yourself up when you reach the flower launcher. Now go anywhere else in the level and look back at Mr. Fit. When you zoom in enough, he'll be loaded in, which plays the delayed cutscene. I don't know of any use for this, but I can always appreciate a neat glitch. Also real quick, here's how to clip inside George the Ice Cube. Just jump around the backside and Banjo should grip onto the ledge through George. This can be used to access the flight pad without witnessing the very long cutscene of George falling. Also, if you attack him from a very specific spot, as seen here, Banjo will actually be pushed off the ledge during George's cutscene and the game will freeze. How curious. This world's transformation is the good old trusty bee. In Banjo-Kazooie, as I showed in the corresponding glitch video, the bee is great for glitching the game. Here, it's not as ridiculous, but it's still useful. The bee can actually clip inside the jelly castle by flying against it and down, aligned with a small hole. After some practice, I found it pretty easy to clip through, collecting the jiggy easily. Sometimes Kazooie gets tired of Banjo and just wants to go flying on her own. That's great and all, but not if she goes off on her own while in torpedo mode. If she does, the game will respawn the duo somewhere. The location seems to change, actually at random. The first time I spawned in the air, nowhere near a platform. The second time was near the cheese wedge. I've actually seen someone spawn inside the mountain and then immediately fall into the clouds. Glitch at your own risk. After getting used to the suction cup boots, we can actually access the 55 jiggy barrier that leads to Cauldron Keep. That's cool and all, but being able to access the pipe is more important because it can be used for a glitch. Climb down it until you reach a spot where Banjo can barely move up with his back against the wall and jump and ground pound. If done in a very precise spot, as seen here, Banjo will clip out of bounds while still climbing the pole. This allows him to climb up and jump to the doorway past the 55 jiggy barrier. Unfortunately, this is useless for beating the game early, as you will still need to collect 70 jiggies to unlock the final barrier. Now that we've finally reached Cauldron Keep, instead of fighting Klungo, let's perform another useless glitch. Right around here, roll off the ledge and jump midair towards the wall. It won't take many attempts to land it inside the ground, grip grabbing what I can only assume is the bottom of the toxic pool. You can't go very far, left or right, but it looks cool. Remember that wrong warp glitch I mentioned in Witchy World? Well, it's time to finally address that. Welcome to the warp zone. Wait, that's already a thing, isn't it? Welcome to the teleportation station. And whatever. We still have a lot to get through, so I'll keep things brief. To set up the wrong warp, or better known as delayed cutscene warp, you'll need a few things. First, you need access to Witchy World, as well as Glitter Gulch Mine. Next, you'll need to use the detonator to clear this pile of rocks in the mine over in the fuel storage room. You see, in that box is a spaceship that wants to return to Witchy World. Back in the theme park, blasting this button with an explosive egg will open the door, allowing Mr. Saucer of Peril into the park. Instead of doing that normally, shoot the egg, then as it explodes, press B to reactivate the platform, which will take you across the park. Assuming you timed it correctly, the door's opening cutscene will actually be delayed, hence the delayed cutscene warp name. Now, go ahead and save the game, and even copy the file if you want to mess around with this. Once you complete a DCW, as I'll refer to it from now on, you cannot do it again. It can only be done once per file, so keep that in mind. Now, if you want to use the DCW to reach the final boss early without collecting the necessary 70 jiggies, enter the boss fight through the main menu's extra menu. Doing so will play 2 cutscenes leading into the fight. Once those have been seen, exit back out and re-enter your file. Now, return to the fuel storage room in Glitter Gulch Mine, and you'll see the Saucer Peril move forward, and you're at Hag 1, the final boss. So, what we have is the door opening cutscene being overwritten by whatever cutscene you see prior to entering the fuel storage. This allows you to warp basically anywhere in the game. It's very handy. So now that we know how the delayed cutscene warp works, let's warp to some other places, which allow for even more glitches to occur. So instead of Hag 1, enter Chompa's Belly minigame in the main menu. Then, instead of returning to the fuel storage room immediately, split up first, then approach the room with Solo Kazooie. Make sure not to teleport with the warp pads, as that will count as the most recent cutscene. Mole silos outside the levels are fine though. In front of the entrance to the fuel depot, toss a clockwork egg, yeah those aren't gone yet, and walk it into the room. You'll see the saucer cutscene, then Clockwork Kazooie in Chompa's Belly, which immediately transform into the duo. Now go ahead and just back on out of there, and you'll be in Pterodactyl Land like normal. The duo, however, are not normal. You are currently a hybrid Banjo-Kazooie, which I'll be referring to as HBK because things are weird. HBK can use Banjo's pack ability as well as Kazooie's eggs while in first person aiming mode. If you have HBK shoot a Clockwork Egg and explode it, things get complicated. You see, the camera will return to Glitter Gulch Mine, back where we left Kazooie. Turns out that since we used a Clockwork to warp, our original duo never went anywhere. This can be extra confirmed by taking HBK out of Pterodactyl Land back to the mine. Oh look, there's Kazooie, just hanging out. Here, Kazooie, have a dino. You deserve it. If you have HBK toss a clockwork egg and explode it while in the same room as Kazooie, the camera will become stuck. Also, since we have a dino in our pack, if we grab something like the running shoes, which forces Kazooie to appear, she'll appear really out of shape. It's weird. That's where the hybrid Banjo-Kazooie glitch comes to an end, but just like the delayed cutscene warp, it can be used to perform more glitches. It's sort of like Inception, we just keep going down through the layers into the glitch. So if you want some transformation fun, take HBK into one of the Humba Wumba tents, like in Pterodactyl Land. Use the previously mentioned first-person shooter glitch, and after positioning yourself, shoot and explode a clockwork egg while transformed. The game will return control back to Kazooie, so meet up with Banjo and then head to Pterodactyl Land. In here you'll find HBK hanging out, so hop in the pool and join them. Look at them, two nice old peas in a pod, the Dino Bros. Neat. Now, we're still not done, so take HBK inside the mountain and transition to Kazooie as previously seen. Once you reach the stationary HBK, split up and as solo Kazooie, toss a clockwork egg and have it walk outside, then come back in. Once it explodes, you'll be controlling both Kazooie and HBK at the exact same time. It's the single player co-op I never knew I wanted. If you have Kazooie rejoin Banjo, now HBK will be complete with his own Kazooie returning. Now sit back and enjoy this romp of Banjo and Kazooie and Banjo and Kazooie here in Banjo-Tooie. For the last stop on our glitchy adventure through this game, we'll be heading to Boggy's Igloo. Here, we'll achieve not one Banjo-Kazooie, not two Banjo-Kazooies, but three. Yes, Banjo 3E is sort of real. It's great. So first, bring HBK here and place him wherever you want. Next, bring Banjo and Kazooie to the icy side of Hailfire Peaks and split up. Using solo Kazooie, head into the igloo, then drop a clockwork egg as you're sliding out the door. If done correctly, the game will oddly swap to Banjo, and trying to use a split up pad will not swap them back. If you take Banjo into the igloo, you'll find that we have achieved Ultimate 3E status. The first Banjo is here, which is HBK, which was created from a clockwork egg. The second Banjo is actually a transformed Kazooie, and the third Banjo is Banjo. Even though this can't be used for anything, I just love having three Banjos all together. I'm sorry, Boggy, I couldn't quite bring your children home, so I became your children instead. What a great family. Well, I think we've glitched this game enough, and possibly broken it forever, so I think that's it. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.